Alright guys, so hopefully the update is very soon. If we take a look at Season 12, we have 12 days left. So basically the update usually rolls out after the end of the last season. So probably we are not far away from the next update. I don't know where it's going to be a fact, but I hope it's going to happen immediately after the end of Season 12. With that said, since there is nothing else to do in the game at the moment, I really don't want to, do videos how I beat normal White Lotus and normal Link Way Tower. I decided to do a controversial video. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. Today I'll be talking about, without putting in any specific order, the top 5 most underrated and most overrated goals. So, I recently made a video about the underrated, so today I'm going to kind of repeat it, but it won't be long. I mean, the overrated part is going to be longer, the underrated part is going to be shorter, and I'm going to start with the underrated characters. So in my opinion, one of the most underrated gold characters is Hightech Jackie Briggs. Now, why is she underrated? Because ever since her passive got reinstated, for those of you who don't know, her passive didn't work for a very long time until they finally fixed it. So currently 20% increased power generation is super useful for so many spec ops as characters, especially if you want to kill bosses. This is going to be super useful. It's going to make the difference between killing them or actually losing to them and stuff like this. Not only against bosses, but more or less in any difficult fight where you need this power generation, need this extra power generation or to be able to spam special 1 or whatever special attack that you're spamming. So Hightech Jackie is one of the very best supports when it comes to the spec ops spectrum. Now, which is the next underrated character, guys? Which is the next underrated character? Probably you're going to be shocked, but I've seen it so many times people disrespect Slasher Jason. They think that the other guy, I forgot his name, the guy with the regeneration special too. Oh my god, I forgot his name. So the other Jason is better, the other gold Jason, which I disagree with. I believe Slasher Jason is so much better. Now, you can make the argument that he's a kind of a pay-to-win, difficult to get gold, but the thing is, he's exceptionally useful even at Fusion 0. He has so many bleeds, and on top of everything, he's exceptionally difficult to kill, which makes him great for survival, makes him great for crypt, and generally even in towers, because once again, he has to die 3 times in order to die for good, and in the process he can do a lot of damage thanks to bleeds. So definitely Slasher Jason is underrated. I do believe that he's an S tier gold, one of the very best golds in the game. Unfortunately, not all people agree with me. This is the reason why I believe he is underrated. Now, another underrated gold, if I actually sort them by newest, is Lizard Jade. Now, the reason why Lizard Jade remains underrated, in my opinion, is that she actually remains in the shadow of Lizard Baraka, and that's why not many people appreciate her, but the reality is she is super useful at Fusion 0 thanks to her passive, especially if you team her up with characters such as Injustice 2 Raiden, and once maxed out, she is a beast. She can literally destroy teams with a single special 2 if you have the correct setup. So definitely very useful character, very good special 1, very good special 2, very good passive, so definitely in my opinion she's a little bit underrated. Again, I wouldn't place her as top 5 best golds ever, but definitely she deserves more love by the community. Okay, there is another Spec Ops character who I believe is very underrated. And I tested this guy a long time ago when I was on my first run on my first beginner account. I started from scratch, and this guy more or less carried my account. I'm talking about Stun Double Johnny Cage. He's so good, very good punching speed, very good chaining of the basic attacks, very good chaining of basic attacks to special 1 and vice versa. So all in all, exceptionally good character. Of course, the problem with this character is that he has 1 HP and he deals 2 damage, but apart from that, if you have a difficult fight in towers, he can actually carry you, not only in tower. Unfortunately, the moment they resist the stun, you are in a lot of trouble. Still, I wouldn't consider him to be one of the very best characters in the game, but definitely a character that a lot of people let's say, decide to ignore because of his bad stats. It is true his stats are bad, but still because of his utility and the way he plays, he can be used in many difficult fights and he can carry even your account, not only in towers, but more or less everywhere else. And the last character I want to talk about, which is underrated, and probably I take partially the blame for that, because for a long time I considered him to be a mid character, but now I changed my mind, thanks to a Shaolin monk. And this guy is Classic, where is Classic Kano? Why am I featuring martial artist? He's an outworld. I have no idea why I did that. But anyways, the other guy is classic Kano. I do believe he's very, very underrated. The reality is, this character can help you in so many situations, especially when you're facing the likes of Assassin Jade or MK11 Jade. Just put them in a stun loop. Of course, if they have Cabal or if they have resistance to the buffs, he won't be able to do much. But the reality is, if they don't, then it is a free victory. And usually the fights with MK11 Jade are super, super difficult, and in 90% of the cases, players get stuck against MK11 Jade. So this guy can be a lifesaver. Absolutely, he's super, super worth investing in the beginning, because you're going to get into an MK11 max sooner or later. If you have this guy at some healthy fusion, let's say fusion 5, 6 or above, you'll be able to clear that stage. So classic Kano is underrated and he deserves more love. Once again, I'm taking part of the responsibility, because I consider him like a mid character who has 2 HP, deals 1 damage, but still, he's great, I have to admit. Now, we got to the overrated characters, and this is going to be super controversial. I'm going to give you my opinion based on my perspective on the game, and there is one thing that I want to make crystal clear. Something can be, or someone can be great and overrated at the same time. I'll give you an example. If somebody says, if you're following basketball, that, or let's say if majority of people say that Dwayne Wade is the greatest player of all time, I'm going to say, no, he's overrated. I do believe he's great, I appreciate his greatness, I acknowledge it, but at the same time, I don't think that he's the greatest character ever, so he's overrated, but still great. Football, if you say that David Beckham is the greatest, I'm going to say he's overrated. However, I will still acknowledge the fact that he's a great football player. So I hope you understand what I'm saying, because every single character that I'm going to list, in my opinion, is great, but at the same time overrated, because people overhype him for some reason. And I'm going to go through each and every one of those characters. And a lot of those characters, guys, a lot of those characters are classics. So let's start with the most overrated gold characters, in my opinion. The first one is classic Shang Tun. I received so many comments from people saying that he's great, he's an S-class, easy S-class, S-tier, I'm sorry, easy S-tier, amazing, he can heal, he can do so much stuff, he can do, Team Soak and then apply lightning, so he can do so much stuff. I agree, however, I never get to like this character, I never get to a point where I actually found this character useful in a lot of cases. I know many other people did, but I didn't. So I'm talking from my perspective. And the thing that is exceptionally annoying about this character is the fact that every single time when I'm trying to use him like a support so that he can heal, or like an extra source of damage because of his beam, the beam is just distracting me. I cannot even do the combo. So there was a tower which I did on my beginner account. And this tower I had a difficult fight where I had to spam special one with classic Kano, and I couldn't do it with classic Shang because his beam kept distracting me. So the moment I removed classic Shang, I managed to beat the fight. It was a little bit slower because his beam was doing some damage after all, but I managed to do it. While with Shang, I kept failing because his beam was distracting me. And yeah, and another thing, I hate his morphing while he's doing basic attacks. Again, it distracts me. I cannot really do anything like meaningful with this guy. I believe he's an A tier. I don't think he's an S. A, between A and S probably. I know a lot of people will disagree, but this is my ranking, it is my decision. I believe this guy is way overrated. There are better gold characters than him. In certain situations he can be super useful because he has more or less every single debuff in the game, but generally speaking, I would never consider him to build a very, very great gold team. So, classic Shang Tsung is a little bit overrated in my opinion. Now there is another gold character who is overrated, and that's classic Ermac. Now hear me out. I did 0 to hero in MK Mobile twice. I'm not going to do it third time, but I did it twice already. So I started from scratch. I created an account and I beat Fatal Tower. Classic Ermac was super useful. But you know what happened was, he was a lifesaver for the first month, he was super useful in the second month, he was very useful in the third month, and then month, and then from the fourth month onwards, I started feeling that I already have an account strong enough so I can out-damage his passive. And what I would do is I would use 2 supports and a guy who can deal damage instead of 1 support and classic Ermac, because I know that if I support this guy properly, he's going to out-damage classic Ermac's passive. So generally speaking, he's a one-trick pony. He is a great boss killer for a beginner account, and after 2 or 3 months passes and you have 1 or 2 fighters at decent fusion, then he gradually starts to fall out of the picture until he just starts collecting dust in your account. So there was a long time ago when I would rank him as an S because of how useful he is against bosses, but then I realized that this is his only quality, to be honest with you. That is why I do believe now that he's not an S but an A, and since a lot of people consider him one of the very best goats in the game, I disagree with that. I don't think he's one of the very best goats. He's very useful, but in very niche situation, and once again, once a couple of months pass on your account, then you're not going to use him at all. At least this was the point when it comes to me. Now, which is the next classic character that I believe is overrated? It's Classic Molina. Now, I know that Classic Molina is super useful in a gold team, in any team that has females, and she heals stuff like this. The things that I don't like about her, her basic attacks are kind of not really the greatest. He doesn't have a single attack that's unblockable, and a little bit she feels underwhelming. She's not really useful in towers. You will definitely use her in survival mode and in the crypt, but apart from that, I never get to feel that she's one of the very, very best goats. And a lot of people disagree. A lot of people consider her one of the very best goats. I think that she deserves to be in top 20, but definitely not in top 10. And if she's in top 10, then she feels overrated for me. And I'm going to bring another classic character, and a lot of people will be like,
how dare you?
Yes, I'm talking about Classic Smoke. And this is the reason why I believe he's overrated. I had a lot of discussions with people, some of them in official Discord, some of them in Reddit, some of them even comments under my videos, and a lot of them consider Classic Smoke to be the best gold character in the game. This is something I completely disagree with, and that's why I believe he's overrated. If somebody is placing him, a lot of people are placing him at the best gold ever, or even top 3, I don't agree with that. I don't believe he's the best gold in the game. I don't believe that he is even top 3. Once again, in my 2 accounts, Zero to Hero, he was exceptionally useful, but only in specific fights. So, if I had to use him out of those fights, I was like, no, I'm not going to use him. There was even a debate in Reddit, I believe, a couple of years ago. A guy was claiming that Classic Smoke is better than Classic Scorpion. This is not the case, guys. Classic Smoke is not better than Classic Scorpion. Classic Smoke is a lifesaver in some fights, and in the other fights, there is no need to use him. At least this is when it comes to my perspective. So again, a niche character, exceptionally useful in certain fights. You can even tell that he's useful more or less everywhere as a support, and I'll agree, but this doesn't make him the best goat in the game. This doesn't put him in top 3 best goats in the game. So this is the main reason why I believe he is overrated. And this brings me to the last gold character which I believe is overrated. And this character is Combat Cup Sonia Blade. Now, she has the same flow as Smoke. Smoke is super useful as a support, and in certain fights he is a lifesaver, but I wouldn't really use him outside of that, because I have better options. I have Classic Scorpion, I have Combat Cup Johnny, stuff like this. Sonia is the same thing. She is a lifesaver in some fights. On my beginner account, I beat specific fights only because of her. Without her, I would have lost. She was the difference between losing and winning. So without her, I couldn't have finished the tower. But only because I had her, even at Fusion 0, she helped me. However, once again, we have this problem. She is a lifesaver in those niche situations. It doesn't matter how important they are. They're just very, very rare. Even if I fail to finish the tower, whatever, I will finish it next time. But the point is, I don't consider her useful, or let's say great, in all the other cases. I wouldn't really consider her as a main fighter in survival mode. I wouldn't consider her as a main fighter in the crypt. I wouldn't consider her in, even as a fighter in all tower fights, unless I need a resistance to stun, or unless I definitely need to give a red card. If I don't need those two things, she's just collecting dust in my collection. This is the reason why I don't think that she is an S. I did consider her as an S, but now as I think about it, she has the same flow as Classic Smoke. Classic Smoke, even though Classic Smoke is a better fighter in my opinion, he's still not at the same level like Hanso, like Johnny, like Baraka, Lisa Baraka. So I wouldn't place him in top 3, even top 5 best goats. I wouldn't place Sonia in top 3, top 5, so in my opinion she's not an S. And Smoke probably is an S, because let's be real, in not many cases you're going to be needing like resistance to stun and the red card, but when it comes to Smoke, I would take the 20% extra resistance to the boss in more or less any fight. But the reality is, Smoke in my opinion is an S, but not in top 3. While Sonia, I think she is an A. Very good passive, but very situational, which is unfortunate. Alright guys, so Please be active in the comment section, tell me where I'm wrong, where I'm right, and yeah, I hope you had fun. The update is around the corner. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I just shared my opinion, guys. That's my opinion. I'm not going to shove it down your throats. If you disagree, perfectly fine with it. See you next time, and have an amazing rest of your day.